welcome to Deals with Heels, where female entrepreneurs thrive. I'm Debra, your host. Welcome to the show. We have a fantastic guest this week talking about a subject that everyone is so interested in, and that is AI. She is an AI expert and really you guys know that I have mixed feelings about AI in a lot of instances, but using it the way she does is fantastic. And I can't wait for you guys to learn all about it. So let's get in it, shall we? Mona Bavar is the founder of Blue Apples.ai, where she helps entrepreneurs and businesses integrate AI as a creative partner to streamline operations, amplify innovation, and maintain authenticity. With a unique focus on blending human connection with AI-driven efficiency, Mona has guided clients in crafting AI-powered brand strategies and enhancing workflows. As a passionate advocate for practical AI adoption, she empowers others to unlock its potential for meaningful growth and success in both business and life. Please join me in welcoming Mona to Deals with Heels.
Thank you, Deborah.
Yay!
Thank you. And thank you for the warm welcome.
You are so welcome. We're excited to have you on the show. I've had a couple of AI people that deal with like consumer relations, like the receptionists and all of that, which I think can be really helpful for small businesses and entrepreneurs and solopreneurs because you can't always afford to have a full-time employee. So I like that kind of strategy too. But I'm so interested in you and all of the way that you use it because I have an advertising and marketing agency. So it ties right in and with all of our entrepreneur listeners that are out there. But before we get started, tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial story and how you end up starting Blue Apples.
So I started Blue Apples as a way of sharing with other friends, other entrepreneurs, how AI can be used effectively and while maintaining your unique brand identity. And I think that's the thing that we all need to highlight when we're using it for business, especially when it comes to creating content, or which in content, I don't mean just social media, but in any form where you are communicating with your target audience. So I have another company that I started about 10 years ago. It's a gifting company called Delish. And I was always either outsourcing the marketing side of it or trying to do it in house, but the costs are too much. So 2 years ago, when ChatGPT came into let's say the arena, I started to play with it and I saw how much I could get done and how the time efficiency was helping me to expand my creativity. And so, let's say as ChatGPT grew, so did my knowledge of ChatGPT and how to use it effectively. Not it's almost a year, little under a year, with a couple of friends who also have different specialties with AI. We came together and created this agency, Blue Apples, that is here to help businesses effectively implement AI. And by effectively, I mean not to be generic, because that is the biggest pitfall that we all face as businesses, especially small to medium sized businesses that have to manage so much with such little resources. So it's very easy to say, let me sit in front of ChatGPT and say, write me a blog or create a marketing flow for me. But then you end up sounding generic and you forget what your brand voice was or what your brand story was. And so that's where we say there's that human, let's say AI marriage, and that gray area comes there, where you understand your brand story, you understand your why, you know who you are as a brand, and therefore can effectively communicate it to your target audience.
And like your AI can learn that from you. They've become so sophisticated in being able to learn from you and from your content that you've made in the past and your websites and all of the things. Is that part of it? Are they learning as you continue to communicate and show them different things and ask for different things?
Ab- Absolutely, absolutely. Because remember, like back in the days when there was computers and we had to input information in order to get the output that we desired. So I always like to say it's like a recipe. You have to put all the ingredients in and then it will deliver the chocolate souffle that you're looking to create. It's about, first, if we take a step back, it's your knowledge of your brand so that you differentiate yourself from the competitors, and then how you're going to program that AI in order to learn and that's why they say prompt engineering, because prompt engineering really is a thing. And there's a reason they call it engineering, and it's because it's so precise. And you would be surprised if the amount of vocabulary that we have to use and be aware of in order to get exactly the output that we want is really important. And I think as more people are using AI, the danger of being lost in an ocean of content, an ocean of brands, is very high. And we already see it now. Like, you may open up an email and you see the first sentence, it says, "I'm thrilled to," and right there, I know it's ChatGPT or some kind of LLM that's starting the sentence in this way. And as you read more, you understand it. And as consumers, and I think as anybody who's out there that is indulging in content, the first thing that we say is, my attention is low. So you hook me, and you hook me authentically. And so if you think about the brands that you resonate with or that you participate in, you see right away it's the ones that create this emotional connection within you that you say, okay, I trust them. I want to aspire to be them. But if it's all of them are the same, which is what we're finding today, then you say, okay, you know what? I'm not interested. Let me go a different direction.
And I think I see a lot of that similarly with entrepreneur groups like threads for mompreneurs, for example, on Facebook. They'll all kind of feed off of one another in how they write their copy and in their posting. And they're not professional marketing people or professional writers, but they are oftentimes learning how to write. And they use a lot of descriptive terms like, I'm overwhelmed with, and all of the things that when you're first starting out seem important, right? To show that emotion. And you and I both know there's a way to write to evoke emotion that doesn't involve using adjectives. And for marketing copy, you need action verbs. You don't need descriptive words typically. And they do get lost with everything starting out. I'm thrilled. This is such an amazing, and all of the things without the nuts and bolts when you have such a short amount of time to hook them in to begin with.
Exactly. It's exactly. And I think, Deborah, one of the things that you and I perhaps have done in our careers is the work. And we've had to do it because probably, I mean, I can tell you for myself, the internet wasn't around when I was growing up. So we actually had to go to the library. We had to do the research. We had to do the work. When I was getting my MBA, we had some internet. We had email, we had this, we had that, but you still had to do the research. You still had to do the work. A marketing plan was still a marketing plan. Your branding was just starting to gain momentum. And we realized that marketing is part of branding. It's not the other way around. And so when it comes to that, I remember when I joined the coaching group, and my business coach, the first thing that she said to me is, what is your brand story? What is your story? And I didn't know why. I'm a 50-year-old woman at that time, and I have this company, a gifting company, and I cannot explain to you why around food and design. And then until it dawned on me, and I did the work and I went deep, and I realized that as immigrants, forced immigrants, when I was 7 years old, the table became our safe haven. So we connected through food. We connected through the aesthetic that my mother would curate, the stories that my father would share. And so subconsciously, I carried that into my life. And as I moved away and went to university, went to do my MBA, when I did everything, the table was always the place that all the people from around the world, we would come together, but not because we wanted to talk about politics or religion or where are you from and why are we enemies and why are we friends, but about the tomato and how the tomato is so common in our food, for example. And so it evolved into this business without me even knowing it. But then once I know the story, I can communicate it first with confidence, because as an entrepreneur, the times that we have to hear no is a lot. And so I lose my confidence. And so you are confident into why I'm doing this. Then you also have this love for what you're creating. So you start to give it a soul. And then that's when the audience or the consumer or the clients, they come to you and say, this is what I want. Why should a Google or a Pfizer choose me for a corporate contract rather than the competitor? Probably because I'm going to be honest and I'm going to share a piece of my story and know your story so that we can both effectively communicate it. And I think that's what's lost with AI, but it doesn't have to be.
Right. I agree with that. I disagree with the marketing be a part of branding, not vice versa. I've been doing marketing since 1990, and branding is a very important part of marketing. Marketing is the overall plan for your business, and your brand is really important part of it. You have to develop it separate from your marketing plan because your business identity and what it is, but it's all incorporated into it. Your brand story, what you're talking about, the part that gets you out of bed in the morning and that is your why and that creates your discipline, because no one's motivated every day. Discipline wins the day. And that's what gets you out of bed in the morning. So that is a little bit separate, but for me, when I started out, we called it demand building. We didn't have, like you said, the internet. There weren't videos flying at you 1,000 times. And we focused on building our business identity as it related to sales. And we are building demand for one, our products and our services in general, but also as us as the provider of choice. And there's the brand. Why choose us over somebody else? And it was really had the sales focus of that's the reason why we're doing it, so that we can sell more and generate revenue. We're not a nonprofit. We're not trying to fundraise. We're a for-profit company. And tying it back into that. And then in the early 2000s, well, really late 90s, it became image. This is what our image is to the public, to our potential clients, to everybody out there. It was called imaging. We're doing imaging. Now, internet has evolved even more and it's bigger and huger and there's so many options, and now it's called branding. It's the same type of marketing throughout the thing. What's changed is all the technology and all the ways people can see your brand and hear your brand and feel your brand and identify and connect with your brand, which was so limited in the beginning. It had a limited focus because there were limited ways to do it, I think, in a lot of ways. When you had one screen in the room and when a commercial came on, you ran to the kitchen or the bathroom or you watched the one commercial. So I think it's important that it grew and that there's so many different ways to tell your story. It's even more important for standing out these days because everybody's out there and we're seeing it fly by. Instead of seeing your ad 3 to 5 times to make a buying decision, you need 15 to 18 touch points for that brand. You need to really, you got to get a lot of them because you're not getting that critical attention that you used to be able to get. And if you can get them to read your story and to dial in and really connect with it, then now you don't maybe need 15 to 18. You can reduce that because of the actual human connection that you got from being able to tell your brand story and standing out. It's really an important part of the evolution of how branding came to be, but you can't forget the sales focus of it, which a lot of agencies forget to put in there. Even though you're telling that story and the story is important, why are you telling it? Why are you telling it? You're
Uh,
telling it for a reason, and keeping that in mind and making it, telling it in a way that's sellable, which I'm not sure AI can do, right? Having that real knowing, understanding how I can sell to Mona, how I can take my story that's authentic and position it in a way that speaks to you specifically, and not changing the story itself, but changing a little bit of how it's told for the next group of potential prospects. AI definitely can't do that. It has to have help for that from a human. So I'm so anxious for you to tell us how you do it. Tell us a little bit about how Blue Apples works and how you help and train people to do it. And do you do it like, say, maybe I don't want to learn how to do it. I just want you to do it for me.
No, you definitely have to train it. But before we get into that, I wanted to ask you a question, Deborah, if
Mhm.
I may.
Hmm.
Don't you think that consumers today are much smarter than they were a few years back? And that through storytelling is how we can sell, let's say, use that S word, but that's how we
Mhm.
can sell to them. Because before we go into how we do it at Blue Apples, that's kind of exactly how we do it. Because when a client comes to us, for example, we had a client that she is a fashion brand in the UK and she was doing a relaunch. So she came to us and said, I don't want to have anything to do with social media. I do not want a website. I just want a landing page. And I will do my sales through trunk shows, events, high end events, trunk shows. Her dresses are very, let's say, couture-ish,
And
limited.
unique. You probably can't, she probably doesn't make masses of them, right? So they're
She
unique.
doesn't make masses of them, but it was an approach that at first, when she came to me, there was oh, she's crazy. What is she thinking? Because you need to have an e-commerce. I mean, how else are you going to do it? But once I started to understand her story and how powerful it was and her why, it was so much easier for us to have that strategy for her. It almost convinced me that, yeah, it's actually possible for us to not have to be another algorithm because consumers now, maybe after COVID or even it's been something progressive, that you almost get tired of this constant input that we're getting fed. And then you want that human connection. So when she has an event in this beautiful place in London and people come, and a lot of people came, and the right people came because she knew exactly who her niche was, she
Mhm.
was able to get a lot of sales.
I
And
think
by a
that
lot,
I think that really is the key. I mean, that's the thing. And telling your story so that you attract not vanity eyeballs. I talk often about how our industry, my industry with marketing and advertising is so focused on key performance indicators and click-through rates and impressions and engagement and that's vanity unless I know that I'm engaging with the people I want to sell my product to and that are going to get my story and understand why it's more expensive and why it's one of a kind or why it's where it is, why I'm selling it there. Getting it to those people are what matters. And often those people aren't on social media.
exactly.
And so you go to an agency and that's what they do. It's their specialty is social media. And so they get a social media solution. It's like going to a surgeon for your healthcare problem. You're going to get a surgical solution if you go to a surgeon for that. So I think people are less savvy about how they do their marketing and promotion. If they focused on the story, then they would understand their target so much better than their target when
Yes.
that message gets specifically to them and the story's been told and they really identify, then yeah, you're exactly right. It is the very best way. Sales is a transfer of enthusiasm. That's it. That's what it is. I'm excited about this product. This is why I'm doing it and transferring that to them. And the best way to do that is for them to understand your story, right?
Exactly. And I love that you said transfer of enthusiasm. I think that's beautifully said because that's
It
exactly how it works.
It is. That was one of the things that I loved about reading about your agency and about you and how you came up with your interaction with AI, but keeping that human touch in there. I think that's why I loved it so much was I was like, yes, that's exactly it because it is the specific message to that audience and marrying it and bringing it all together does make you stand out from all of the masses. And I think there are a lot of very savvy consumers that spot that inauthenticity so easily. And there are also a group in my own. I do sales coaching and we do buying personalities, and combined with an authenticity factor. How authentic do I have to be? How deep in my authenticity do I have to get to sell to this person? Also, but I had to add a whole thing for social proof. Had to add that in. There are people that I'm buying it because somebody on the internet said it would work. And that is a very shallow way. And I don't think you get a lot of brand loyalty that way either with the you know what I mean? It's a new phenomenon. It used to be those testimonials went in with the thinkers that want empirical data, and they want to hear the testimonials from people that have used the stuff as well. But social proof is different than that.
Exactly.
They don't even know if those people have used it at all. It's just the very best thing I've ever had, Mona. You should try it too.
Love to.
It is so inauthentic. And I think it's just two separate ways, two separate models, right? This person's like trying to be an influencer, and this person over here has a small business that needs to genuinely connect with people. And those two types of content are not the same. Separating that out and understanding which type of an agency a small business is dealing with is really important. Am I with somebody that is looking for this eyeballs, for all the eyeballs? That's important. I'm trying to monetize content, or do I really want to connect with somebody, and do I need to connect to sell my actual product for my small business? Two totally separate audiences that get meshed all together and nobody knows which is which. It's confusing.
Yeah, and I totally understand what you're saying, because what ends up happening is that, especially the e-commerce businesses, we assume automatically that everybody's our target audience. And so our marketing is all over the place, as I'm sure you know. But
Heard a new term, omnipresent social media strategy, which is the same as throwing spaghetti on the wall, right? It's
exactly.
the omnipresent strategy. So you'll just be everywhere. They can't miss it then.
Which I think is wrong. Like I said, the way I see the world shifting and evolving, especially with AI, especially with speed, um, it's like a pendulum. If you remember with Amazon, everybody was so excited and it was consumer and let me buy this and let me get this and let me get that. And then all of a sudden, a few years back, we went towards craftsmanship and artisanship. So everybody, or handmade or made locally. And so we were almost, this pendulum was swinging until now. Maybe today we say we have some kind of a balance, because you know specifically who wants what and who doesn't. And I think the same thing is happening here with AI and how we're using it, because there's this, the antithesis of AI is human connection. And most of the time, if you are not specific to your niche audience, or let's say it's a huge, but you're going to get lost. So another example is we have a founder. She started this wellness oils, beauty oils, pure 100% organic. And we were doing the market analysis in order to understand her competitors and what made her stand out. And believe it or not, there are so many people out there selling 100% pure organic oils for beauty that you can use, and there's so many price points that you get lost in it. I myself, I use castor oil for
I
nine
use castor oil. I
for
use castor oil.
$9. Yes,
I
for
use castor oil
$9.
too. And I think I look pretty dang good for castor oil, let's
You
face it.
see?
But I love all the oil. I love all the facial oils and all the, yeah. But I also heard about using beef tallow.
I've heard about that, but I don't.
I haven't used it. I like the castor oil too. Great minds.
Oh, you see? But to point, just to say that she just can't go in there and say, let me just put it out there, because yes, it's easy. You can write a product description, you can write all this, go and sit in front of chat, sit in front of Claude, Gemini, whatever. And they'll even give you the keywords, not competitive keywords, but it'll do that for your optimization. But the reality is, if you don't have a strategy, if you don't know who your end consumer is, and how to communicate to them, like you said, how to get them enthusiastic about your product, then there's nothing else. You're just one in many, and good luck getting ranked on Google unless you're going to pay for clicks. And so this is where we're at right now. And I think, at least in my journey, I've seen so many shifts in such small amount of time that I sometimes myself get confused, and I have to step back and then go back to why I decided to do something. Because I know when I sit down on a client call with Spotify, for example, Spotify says to me, why and why and why should I do this? And how do I show it? And then calming them down, as you know, as a coach,
Mhm.
calming them down and saying, you know what? Let's take it piece by piece and put the puzzle together so that you can walk away happy, right? I mean,
Yes.
gifting is a stressful thing. Creating content is stressful. Competing with an algorithm is stressful.
You feel like you can't win sometimes when and then they just do one little update and refresh in their business. And now, what I was doing, it's so frustrating as a business owner. But if you identify, you get your brand, you get your story, then you stay true to that. And it started, I saw their first senior vice president of Nike that was a female speak in the 90s. And they talked about it then, about how they honor their brand. And for them, it isn't do it, just do it. That's their slogan. Their brand is serve the athlete. And even at a time when Skechers, for example, was coming out with all they looked like sports shoes, but they were cute and they had the bling and this, and the kids would wear them. And Nike refused to do it. They had a lot of offers to get in that kind of vanity athletic shoe wear that wasn't, but they serve the athlete. The athlete doesn't need a sparkle. The athlete doesn't need that extra. And they stand by that, I think, very well over the decades. They've been able to honor. And it's because they understand that story of theirs, which is, how when I watched her speak, she was like, okay, everybody stand, raise your hand if you exercise sometimes. Keep your hand raised if you exercise every day. And she went through it. Keep your hand raised if you exercise, rain or shine. It's raining and you're still going out. And by this time, there's just a handful of people she says, we're the ones standing under the light with the umbrella cheering you on those days. That's Nike. We serve the athlete. And so having that brand and honoring their story, just that simple story, that one little simple story for a brand that big, serve the athlete. If what you're bringing to us doesn't serve the athlete, then we're not going to do it. We don't care who the athlete is. We don't care what their gender is. We don't care what color they are. We don't care where they come from. We don't care what sport it is. We serve them.
And you see how powerful that is, right?
Yeah.
In an audience, you're sitting there, and all of a sudden that you go through this, you're going with the speaker. So
Yeah.
that's what storytelling essentially.
So, how can you get your story and use AI to help come up with all the creative ideas? It's hard to brainstorm and figure all of that out, but still keep your human element in there.
I think one of the most important thing is the more you know yourself. So we do this thing at Blue Apples where we use Jungian archetypes in order to help brands understand themselves, especially the founders. And so once you start to explore, and it's much more than, I know when you go to branding agencies, and it's what I did when I started. They go do the color palette, they ask you these questions, and they're important. But I think you need to go one layer below the surface, much more than that, so that you can, they say, and I always believe this, that the journey of an entrepreneur or a CEO or any manager, or anyone who is responsible for others in a leadership role that is creating, is more self improvement and self development than it is about numbers and results. And yes, those come. It's wonderful and you should have them, of course. But when you go through this process, then you're much more aware of the creative aspect. So it's almost that if it's dormant, and I say this from personal experience, I come from investment banking. I then went and started to do the entrepreneurial journey. And I remember being always in this box where it had to all tick because this is how you build. So there had to be the KPIs, there had to be the going through the balance sheet, going through the cash flow, all of that that you had to do. And then you get to the point where you say, what's happening? And you take a step back and you realize, wow, there is this creative side inside. And because I've been using AI in a way that I already knew my business or I knew my brand. So when I sat down in front of it and said, you know what, I went today and I saw an exhibition by, I don't know, Van Gogh, Vincent Van Gogh, and I want to create a gift box inspired by that. So and this is, that I do food, art, and design. So take me through the journey. Give me ideas. And it will give you the ideas. And a lot of times if we don't know our brands, we'll go automatically and take that. But because you know your brand, you say, you know what? No, that's not going to work. Instead of, I don't know, coffee, substitute, I don't know, tea. And so this is where I think me personally, I've broken kind of these walls and said, it's okay, let the left brain and the right brain merge, which let's say AI and the human side again, they merge and they come together and you enhance the creativity. So it always goes back to the more you know yourself, and by yourself, I mean you personally or your brand, the more you're going to be benefiting from the use of AI in every single way. We use it for strategy, we use it for ideation, we do experiences like tasting experiences as part of gifting. Companies like to do that. Through that, we come up with great ideas, great ways of engaging people, which I believe is more beneficial than team building, where you sit and you do a lot of workshops. I think there's so many ways to use it, but once you know the basics that you have to know about your brand.
I agree. I think that's fantastic advice to really get to know that. I also love using all of your senses in your gifting. I really looked at Delish. I have a unique, I don't know how I can do it. It just naturally happens. I can get the perfect gift for somebody that I don't know. It'll be sentimental. I make people cry that I don't know very well at all by I got them something and it was their grandma's favorite flower from childhood. I just have a knack for doing it. And so I was really interested in Delish and because that's your thing, the connection. And I love using all of the different senses for it, right? Just so connects in. So for your brand too, I think people forget sometimes to think in their brand of how are you going to relate to your customers? How's your pricing strategy? Are you going to be the low cost provider? Because that affects everything else. Are you going to be an upper end, more bougie provider? That affects everything else that has to do with your story too. So you're right. You have to dig deep more than what it looks like visually. It's
Exactly.
so important to look at. It's not that the visuals aren't important, but everybody, I mean, there are only so many colors and color combinations. And I think that you have a tendency maybe to put them in different groups based on the type of business it is, or if it's a woman running it, or all of those things are important. But the nuts and bolts of who you are as a company, how are you going to strategize? How are you going to price it? How are you put all of it together and tell your story about why you're doing it? It's really important. I love all of the stuff you have. I wish I had another hour to pick your brain about all of it. It was such a great description of how to build your brand using your story. There's a reason you chose the business that you chose. What is that reason? Tell us all about it. Why are you doing it? I love that so much. And of course, when it's a great story, it takes up all of the time. Tell the audience how one, they can find out about your coaching and AI consulting business. And then two, how to get in on the Delish and see all about the corporate gifts and the things that is involved in that.
Absolutely. Deborah, also, I have to say, I love that you tackle the sales side because that's one thing that we can't forget. It's wonderful to create the beauty around it, a brand, but then you have to know how to sell it. So sales coach. I had never even heard of that, but who knows? I might be contacting you.
I do sales and mindset combination coaching. So it's not just about the nuts and bolts of how to sell it and your message in selling, but how to not lose your mud when you are up against a competitor and how to keep your mind clear and focused. And all of that's really important too. And I think it ties in with your brand. If you can stay calm, you're going to honor your brand much more easily than if you get emotional about the price or someone arguing with you about price. If I know my brand and I know the value, then I'm not going to lower my price and I'm not going to feel compelled to do so. And I'm not going to get upset for doing it later because I didn't do it to begin with. So it all ties in so well together. And I appreciate you understanding that point because they do have to work hand in hand. You can't do one successfully without doing the other one successfully.
Exactly. Exactly. They reach me. Delish is our gifting company. Blue Apples is the AI agency. And me personally, you can find me on LinkedIn.
Fantastic. And I will have links to all of her stuff in show notes, of course. I hope everyone will check out her website. I had to go there for Blue Apples just to check it out and see all of it. There's a lot of great information on the website that will help you understand what they do as an agency. It's unique. You don't get to see someone. Sometimes you see writing agencies that focus on copy, but really just the storytelling of it is super important. And I'm so grateful to have you as a guest. We'll have to have you back on again.
Thank you, Deborah. It was a pleasure being with you and talking.
All right, everyone, please like, share, download, give us some comments. Let us know what you think about the episode. And until next week, we're out.